What's going on, people? How we doing? Hope all is well. Hope everyone's enjoying their day. Right, another great conversation with another great creative. Like I said to you guys, the Definition podcast is solely for the thinkers and for people that choose to think, because that's how we need to get through this crazy world we're living in right now, and also find meaning through what we're doing, in life. And I feel like it was very important to invite Adrian Daniels, the founder of the Sound of Accra podcast, who interviews a lot of diasporans from different parts of the world, mainly Ghana and other parts of Europe, on the activity in Ghana and West Africa. And we talk about how those diasporans are specifically at the moment taking over the whole entire creative scene, just due to their influence and their keen interest in building back home, wanting back home to invest, finding a better quality of life, trying their best to also find means and ways and how they can work together and help the severe disruptive narratives of Africa and other countries. So yeah, let me know what's your thoughts. Tune in. The live video, the actual visuals will be available on our YouTube channel. So New Motive WOC on YouTube. Subscribe, check out the video for the full visuals. Let me know. But this is going to be the audio from our Instagram live conversation. So you guys let me know what you think. Stay tuned. All right, what's going on, people? How we all doing today? Making sure my camera quality, everything's all good. Cool. Thank you for joining this live today. This is for the Definition podcast, episode 27, the Diasporan Takeover. We're going to be having a conversation with a friend of mine called Adrian Daniels, who's also got a podcast called The Sound of Accra. And basically today we're going to be talking about the activity of diasporans in the last 2 years, going into Ghana, Africa, specifically as well, and those of us in the UK and the US who have really made big moves and tried our best to actually, share that awareness with everyone, in terms of going back home and settling back home in a complete different environment. And we're going to be covering the Sound of Accra as well, the actual podcast, amazing podcast. We're going to be speaking with Adrian Daniels about that and why he started, and also some of the COVID-19 fears and myths. As you guys may have not known or may know already, I did a fear series, 3-part series with some creators and entrepreneurs, just to get their views on adapting during this whole pandemic, and actually knowing what to expect, knowing what not to expect, and obviously just taking things in, the facts, and actually doing your own research for yourself. So right now I'm going to bring Adrian in, and we're going to get this conversation going. So, 1 second, let me bring him in now. What's going on, Sol? Okay. Yo, bro.
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm fine. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm all good, bro. I'm all good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm just here. To be honest, I've just been catching up on work, like my own creative work and stuff like that. And yeah, man, I've just been. I tuned into Brian Rose, boy. He's killing it right now, man. He is killing it.
London Real Army. Yeah, London Real Army. Yeah, shout out to Brian Rose, man.
Yeah, shout out to Brian. He's doing his thing. I was watching his
I was halfway through. Well, not halfway through. I say about 20 minutes into his interview with Rashad Buta,
Okay.
talking about the whole, you know, yeah, I think he's got like 150 doctors on like this huge Zoom call.
I saw that. That was mental.
Yeah, I haven't finished watching it, but he was talking about like just the, the vaccines and the whole second wave of coronavirus that's coming. So yeah, it was really, we're gonna get into coronavirus hey,
Oh
there is
man,
so much. There is so much, man. There is so much. But I appreciate you coming on here.
you're welcome,
I
man.
really do.
Happy to be here.
That's
Happy to
cool.
be here, man.
That's cool, man. I just
Yeah.
give it 1 or 2 little seconds just so more people can fit in the chat, and then we'll just carry on, man, as normal. So
Uh,
yeah, man. You've been good though, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Busy, man. Good, but really busy.
Okay, so
Busy, man. Just one thing after the other.
was it
One
start? Is
thing
it all
after the
starting to
other.
pick back up now? Now that everyone's starting to slowly come out of lockdown or what, and stuff like
It's,
that.
I don't know. It's weird. I feel like more opportunities have come up for me during lockdown. So
Yeah.
yeah, more opportunities have come up for me during lockdown. I feel like even before I got on this live, I got a WhatsApp message from someone I've not heard from in a long time ago. I think I haven't even opened the message yet, but I know that they've come to me for something. So it's quite interesting. I think the lockdown coronavirus has been a time of inspiration for a lot of people. It's kind of pushed people to think outside the box. It's kind of pushed people to think out of the box. So how people have to kind of pivot to kind of make things work. So, for example, you take airlines, you take, even what Patrick David was talking about the other day. You take airlines, you take, what other industries really struggle to pivot? Airlines, and then what else? Not Uber, not taxi. Yeah, airlines. They can't. I mean, what can airlines do? Fill the whole plane of people? They can't, because obviously that's going to go against essential service or whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, just take those kind of services. It's not a real way to kind of pivot. But I feel like for me, coming from a technology background, versatile kind of technology B2B kind of, you know, investment kind of background, I feel like there's a lot that can be done here. Even though the situation's it's a bit rubbish. Yeah, there's a lot that can be done here.
It's true what you're saying. Just even looking at a few things that I've seen from Patrick Bet-David himself and Brother Polite and a few other guys online about the stocks. They're saying this is a very good time to invest because a lot of stocks are down. Buying a house as well for those who are waiting, who had their money ready. I mean, I don't know about the UK market, but I do know it has affected us quite a lot because I did see some articles and headlines about it. But I know in America they're predicting like a huge crash because again, what's impacted us now in the 3 months, there's a huge residual that's due to come in the next maybe year or two. So the only one that I'm not really fond of is the TFL one, because obviously they brought back congestion charge, but it's going to be now 7 days a week. Yeah, and it's
These
going to be
guys
like
ain't playing.
£15 a day. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So it's like,
Yeah.
that's the only one I'm like, nah, that one should have just stayed the way it was. One's there.
I mean, TFL, they aren't playing. I mean, they have to make their money back somehow because how the government, the government, what they've done is they've had to, take the taxpayers' money and use that to furlough people, use that to, to give out loans and grants and all kinds of things. And I don't know why they even made TFL free of charge. I mean, they should have just kept charging people. It doesn't cost that much. Maybe the tube, but the bus, really, you just can give people.
Yeah, like it was. I personally feel that it was looking at that from their perspective as politicians. I think what they saw is an opportunity to push the whole ULEZ project.
Yeah.
They had the whole ULEZ project. I think it was from like 2019 to 2023. They were trying to make London a controlled zone where you don't drive your car with certain emissions and whatnot, unless your car's electric or hybrid.
Yeah, that's
So
coming, isn't it? That's
It's
coming
coming.
then.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
And I think when they saw this opportunity, they thought, let's play a game of make everything free and available, act like we're doing it for COVID, but really and
Yeah.
truly we're doing it so we hope it crashes. And then when it crashes, we push in these tough laws and regulations because now we've got an excuse, coronavirus.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's fixed. Some people are saying coronavirus came about so that the economy can crash, so that the people that brought it around can control the market. That's what some people are saying. So it's quite interesting. The forces that are behind all of this is it's quite interesting to see how they're pulling the strings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
trust me, bro.
yeah.
But yeah, man. All right, well, because of time, I know we've got a couple of things we're going to talk about, so let's just get into it straight away.
Let's get into it, man.
Let's get into
Let's get into it, man. Let's just talk.
So yeah, well, you know what? We've recently, we've done a few. I know I featured on your podcast, which was the Sound of Accra podcast, and I was quite amazed to see. Even now, I think you've done a few episodes after, man. I think you're on episode like 11 now, and
I think episode 11 is coming out this I think end of this weekend should be out. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it was very good to see, an actual. I like your content and your actual, the story of the Sound of Accra in terms of why you're covering that. And for those who don't know, I just wanted you just to give a little bit of an explanation on what is the Sound of Accra podcast, and why did you decide to do it?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll probably take it back a little bit to university, to back to university days actually. So when I was in university, I had like my own radio show with my best friend. Shout out to Toby. I know he's not on here, but yeah, I had a radio show in university, and it was called In the Mix. It was called In the Mix. So like basically, like I think every Friday night or something between I think 8 o'clock to 9:30 p.m. It was me and Toby. Back then it's called Skills. He was a producer like me. We were both producers back then, And we just literally just played urban music. Had some guests on the show here and there, and then we just basically just did a regular radio show. Like I think it's from our first year to second year. Yeah, so first year and then second year of university. So then that went well. That went well. I even picked up some university awards in radio. I went to the student radio awards and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of picked up.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into it. I enjoyed doing radio. And then I actually had like believe it or not, back then there was like podcasts, like,
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Even though we don't really call it podcasts, like there was like an actual thing called podcasts. So I used to actually do like mini little kind of interviews with people on campus about different things, about what's going on. I think we had our own version of coronavirus back then where there was just this wave of slang that hit the campus that everybody just started to use. So I remember interviewing people around it and things like that. So yeah, I mean, just basically, if you go backwards in my just in my journey, really, I've always been someone who's been into kind of like radio content and just kind of like giving something that people would enjoy, giving something that people would like to tune into, just something unique, And and then fast forward, I remember like a few years ago, like my friend was like, "Oh, Adrian, like you're really good at radio. Why didn't you go back on radio or do something?" I was like, maybe so. It's not really my thing. It's not really something that's really gonna kind of bring in the money that I want. But it was something that I did enjoy, and it was good while it lasted. And then basically a few years ago, like I was listening to podcasts like all the time, and then I think it hit me until last year. What happened was last year or the year before, I tried to launch a platform called London2Accra.com, which is based like an online guide for Ghanaian travel and tourism. So literally from when you literally land at the airport in Ghana to maybe getting yourself into a hotel or maybe going back on your flight back. Yeah. So I launched. Yeah. So I tried to launch London2Accra.com the first time I tried to launch it. I tried to make it like a just literally a website where you could book flights from London to Accra. Because when I just randomly thought of the domain, and I thought, okay, this would be a great way to get so much traffic. And actually, I was getting like maybe 500 to maybe 1,000 visits a month just for that domain alone.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, this domain had so much potential, so let me just make an actual travel website around of it. But then coming down the line, I realized that there's so many people doing this thing now. You got This Is Accra. They're doing that pretty well. There's obviously shout out to Holiday Helper. I think he just tuned in. And there's other people who are kind of doing that kind of Accra, Ghana travel and tourism thing. So I thought, So when I launched London to Accra version 2, I think November last year, it didn't kind of like get the response I wanted. And plus, it wasn't up to the level at which I wanted the platform to be at, because I was doing other things outside that. You know what I mean? So just before I went to Ghana, I think I was just doing something. I was just doing something, and I just heard someone say the sound of something, and then it just clicked. I just had a light bulb moment, like ding. You know what I mean? Like the light bulb above me. I just had a light bulb moment, and then I just thought, okay, the sound of Accra. That would be like a really, really cool name, because I just wanted something fresh, and that was just something that came to mind. And then when that name hit me, I was like, I can do something with this, right? So then I thought, you know what? I'm going to launch my own podcast series. And I thought, okay, yeah, I'm just going to interview diasporas and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. There are so many diaspora podcasts out there. There's so many people doing podcasts about diasporas or Black professionals or Black entrepreneurship. I wanted to really, really narrow it down and just focus on something, very kind of niche. So then I thought, okay, cool. Maybe this could be just about Ghanaians or something. So I kind of I told everybody I was starting this new podcast series, and then you had like Kwame tell me, approach me at the YGP end of year party. I don't think you were there. But Kwame approached me. He's like, yeah, maybe you missed that. Yeah, or maybe, were you around actually last year, December? Were you part of YGP then? I think you were, but we hadn't met then. Yeah.
We hadn't met. Yeah, I was around, but I didn't. Yeah, I think I might have missed that actual party.
Yeah. So Kwame approached me and said, yeah, he'd be interested in doing the podcast. And then literally, I messaged a whole bunch of people just before and just after I came back from Ghana. No, just before I went to Ghana. And whilst I was in Ghana, I messaged a whole bunch of people, and then people were saying they were interested. So then I still didn't really have the actual definition around what I was going to do. But I just kind of knew that I was going to interview people about Ghanaians, Jess. So what happened was I finally kind of got my first guest booked. So that was basically in airport. So I did my first episode, obviously, with Bontwe Anyete, award-winning creative reading artist. I just ordered his book from Amazon, actually. He came the other day, Mensa. I can't wait to read it. But this guy is he's awesome when it comes to creative writing, screenwriting, writing for TV shows. Like, he's done it all in Ghana. Like, even successful TV shows that I've grown up, because I used to live in Ghana, right, for 3 years. Not a lot of people know this. I used to live in Ghana.
Okay.
And I grew up. Yeah, I lived in Ghana for 3 years, and there were a lot of like popular TV shows back then, like Things We Do for Love and things like that, when I was growing up there. Anyway, and lo and behold, he was behind some of those TV shows and things like that. So yeah, basically, I secured my first gig with Bontwe Anyete, and it was obviously, I did it in live. I didn't do remote like I'm doing now because of coronavirus. So my Uber came to my apartment, and it was taking me to meet him in airport, right? A really cool place called the Lemonades. I can't remember what it was, Lemonade something in airport. That's when we did our first podcast. And then I said to myself, I need to come up with a catchy kind of catchy kind of motive to kind of get people to tune in. So then whilst I was in the Uber, I was actually coming up with, the kind of theme around the sound of Accra. And then I was trying to refine the idea, and then eventually I got the whole idea where just before I got to the venue, eventually I had the idea, we chat with colorful creatives and entrepreneurs from a Ghanaian background, or with a special interest to the city, bringing you one step closer to Accra. And then what really did it for me is that once I recorded that first episode with Buntui and Yete, and I shared it in the group, right? I shared it in one of those WhatsApp groups that we're in, right? And then literally one of the first comments I had was, Adrian, those first few seconds gave me the reason to continue listening. And then from that moment, I was like, this is going to be a hit. I know this is going to be a hit, because you need something. You need something that's going to grab people. Why are they going to listen? Why should you listen? There's so many podcasts out there. Why should you listen to your podcast? Why? You know what I mean? And I kind of like thought about it. I was like, is there any kind of podcast that just focuses? Maybe they're focusing Ghana, but maybe not specifically focusing on Accra or focusing on Ghanaian entrepreneurs and creatives and things like that. You don't really have a lot of people like that. So I thought, okay, great. I think I've got something here. I've got a niche. If I just run with it and just bang out content, it's going to get somewhere. And obviously now when I kind of look at it today, so that was like maybe December, January, I had plans from September to start doing the podcast. That's when I finally made my mind up I was going to do it in September 2019. When I look at it today and I go on Apple iTunes podcast, you type in Accra, I come at the top.
That's good.
And that's something I'm quite pleased with. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm right next to the BBC World Service, whatever. Maybe it's changed now because maybe some people have, put up new content and things like that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the story in terms of how it came about. And yeah, I'm just trying to keep with that same theme. I've got that event, Diaspora Connect, that I do in airport, right? Once a year.
Yeah. Because we're going to get into that as well, because
okay,
from what you said, as you was talking, I was saying to myself, you know what? From a lot of creative ideas, or a lot of like amazing things have happened from that transition of university to the real world. Like even with myself, you're like the fourth creative I've spoken to this week that said to me, I had an idea at uni and I just ran with it. And it's like, I feel like the pressure, the struggle of being at university, or just the environment of networking with people, it does stimulate a creative nerve inside a lot of people's brains. I feel like, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of negatives to uni, but I think the positive thing is when you network with people and you're able to monetize off that, or not even monetize, but you're able to, if it's like you said, you made a radio show. So again, uni is like the best place to network and make friends. I've got friends for life now, literally from going to university. A person that came into university, coming from South London and not trying to talk to anyone, and realizing the whole of South London was there. And it was like, rah. And friends that I even grew up with that I never spoke to, we had the best relationships at university because it was such an open space. And I feel like going on to the Diasporan stuff now, this is what's happening now. So for example, with me, I'm Ghanaian. Obviously, I'm not born in Ghana. I'm born in Britain. I've always had a passion to move back. I've always had a passion to impact the continent. I've always had a passion to. But you know what? Last year was probably one of the best years of me actually networking with a lot of diasporans that have gone back to Ghana. Those that are from Ghanaian heritage and those that are not from Ghanaian heritage. And what's blown up has been the YouTube world. The YouTube world, like, from people like Wademaya. I mean, Wademaya is not even a diasporan, to be fair, because he's actually Ghanaian, but because he's lived in China, like he's come out, and people like Vanessa Camby, I love her videos because.
Shout out to Vanessa, man. She's fired, man.
She's not.
I'm trying to get on my show, man. I told Kojo that I'm trying to get on my show when I do the podcast. She's good, but I might hold her up for season 2 though. But yeah, she's good, man. She's a good
really
YouTuber.
Good.
She's really good though. Shout out to her.
To come from Scotland and as a Ghanaian, and then coming over into Ghana and connecting that bridge. And I feel like right now, even going back to Ghana and just seeing Africa in general, especially Gambia, there's this whole massive diasporan takeover that I'm seeing. And again, you've got an event called the Diasporan Connect. I wanted to know, how are you seeing the impact of having those events in Ghana in like 2019, 2020? You know, what are the positives? What are the negatives? And what do you think that's actually, you know, because again, we were speaking the other day on the phone about podcasts. And I was saying to you about Joe Rogan. You know, he's just signed these 100 million Spotify, which is now completely changed the whole podcast game. Everyone now is going to start doing podcasts. It's actually going to become a sport, I personally believe. And, you know, for me and a lot of my friends as well, a lot of us have opinions. And I said, you know what, for real, maybe I created my definition podcast because I wanted to have a conversation with creatives and thinkers. You know, conversations that are going to help us just learn and build a better consciousness in this current world we're living in today. So with your Diasporan Connect, what's the impact so far with, I mean, you did your first event, it was last year in the year of return during Ghana, innit?
No, so the first Diaspora Connect was before the year return. So that was, so the one, so can you still hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, I think I had some issues with my AirPods earlier on. But yeah, the first Diaspora Connect that I did was in 2018. I think it was 2018. No, it was 2019. It was actually, you're correct. It was last year. You're correct. It was last year, but January. Last year, January.
Oh, right.
So 2019 January, and I did a second one in 2020 January. So the beginning of this year. And the difference between that one and this one was, of course, the numbers. Numbers, obviously, were a lot more people. Obviously, my event wasn't huge, but I did have a lot of what I've had both years was competition. So usually when I'll do this event, you know, I'll kind of ask if people want this, if there's some kind of demand. I'll check the market. I'll see what ticket sales are like. Tickets will always sell out, whatever, because obviously I'm giving them free, but people pay at the door. But then there's always something that would maybe distract people. You know, I'll get a call saying someone is not feeling well, because obviously you get some of these people that have come to Ghana to Accra to rave, to party, whatever. And then they get the the holiday flu, or whatever they call it. And then you get some people who don't turn up because, you know, obviously they haven't literally paid for it until they get to the door. So maybe something else comes up, and it's easy for them not to turn up. So what I've noticed is that those that actually turn up are the ones who are hungry to connect, who are hungry to network. So from last year, I pretty much just had Sissel from YGP and some of his friends turn up, and that was pretty much it. It was like 5 people, even though I had sold like 30 tickets. It was just like 5 people. But then obviously, you know, it was all right. It was just like a random just chit chat about random stuff. But this year was a lot better because we had like, even though I sold like 100 and something tickets, there was like 30 people that turned up, you see. So the conversion rate when you're doing free ticket events, the conversion rate is not always there. But what I've noticed is with these events, you need to have kind of like guests, speakers, whatever, that's going to attract the crowd. So for example, if you take Diaspora Drive, that I know someone that was part of, like that was packed out. That was a much bigger venue. I think it was in like Echo Bank headquarters or something. Absolutely packed out with diasporas that wanted to learn how they could relocate to Ghana and make a difference. You know, lots of speakers, lots of big names, and the advertisement that it was being advertised like crazy. You know, so. But what was great about Diaspora Connect was that, you know, a lot of people I met from there, they actually ended up being on my podcast, which was great. And they were just looking for opportunity. They were just hungry to network, you know? They were just hungry to network.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you in that one, because obviously most of the people I met last year in 2019, just networking about, you know, Accra, Ghana, you know, buying property over there, building, whatever. A lot of them were all diasporans, and some of them have lived there, some of them have come back. And there was a lady called Miss B Wrights. She's got this magazine called I think it's a KD Mag, and it's very good. She covers a lot. She's a journalist, and she covers a lot of stories and stuff in Ghana and that. And yeah, like what I'm starting to see now is just I'm learning more about my country through diasporans, a lot more. And I feel like they're bridging so much of a gap that's going at a fast rate where I believe by 2022 or even 2021, although coronavirus has hit, which we're going to get into in a sec, but I feel like with the way they're coming in, I feel like it's going to really help Africa. It's going to really develop it as well and change the narrative a lot more on that as well. So what you're doing, you know, I appreciate it, bro. And you know, I always tell you to keep going, keep trying harder, and keep going as well, because the consistency is always going to pay off later on. You know, it's better off having 30 people that are serious at an event than having 100,000 packed, and then it's like one person's like, yeah, hey, like, you know, I want to sit down and talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like it's good. It's good still. And the podcast, again, the first guy you had on there as well. What was his book? You were saying is it called Mensu or Mensa? His book is
Mensa. I mean,
Mensa.
his body of work is very exhaustive. If you go on the Sound of the Crowd, that's why I love what I do. Now that I've got a system in place, I can just send people to the website. I can even send them to the URL now. You know what I mean? So you could go to thesoundofthecrowd.com/Bontwe-Anyete, all the show notes, or just go to the website, go to show notes, and all of the links are there. Literally, all of the links that you need are there. But he's an author, so he's an author, he's a creative writer, he's a content writer, a copywriter. He's very, very versatile. But he has a book called Mensa. I've not written it yet, but it's basically like a crime, like a kind of crime type novel. So basically, I think it's about this Ghanaian guy who kind of moves to Hackney, and you know he gets involved in a whole bunch of crime and stuff like that. But I mean, he's kind of creative. He's like a very kind of creative kind of thinker. I like the way he thinks, and he really, really impressed me. The way he came across on the podcast. So I thought, you know what, I actually want to get involved in supporting him. I actually want to read his books. I want to read his read more into his content. I think he's got a book, or he's working on he's got so many projects in the works. I really like what he's doing. I think he's got one project called, I think, Jollof Wars or something. Ghanaian versus Nigerian Jollof. Just go to thesoundofthecrowd.com and check out the show notes and just see everything there.
I listened to that show, and that's what kind of drew me to the podcast even more, because I was like, "Right, this guy is like, I like the stuff this guy is saying." You know, I've heard of he was designing some of his stuff because he's a creative just like me. So I was hearing the struggles of, you know, writing things creatively, working with people and whatnot. So yeah, it's good, man. To be honest, personally, like right now, I'm happy. I'm really happy that young people are taking the opportunity to actually say, you know what, for real. I'm living in the UK right now, in the USA or wherever in Europe. Is it working? You know, I'm questioning, is it worth going to university here, or am I better off going overseas to actually continue on my studies? Because what people are finding here, from what I speak to, from the people that I speak to, what they're finding out is that here is becoming so stressful and so tight in terms of actually being successful, that the only thing left is money. The only thing left is, and which is still an opportunity in terms of investment, in terms of actually getting yourself, you know, into a certain position. But I'm starting to now realize, just through the Diasporan eyes, that maybe it's not always about being in the West. Maybe it's not always about, you know, because again, some people in Ghana may disagree. They may say, oh, no, coming over is the best thing, you know, because you get an education, or you get this, you can get a job. But the quality of life here compared to the quality of life you can have over there, from what I've seen online and whatnot, and through people like yourself, I don't think it's worth it. And you know, the Diasporan people are starting to capture that narrative and push for things forward in it. But looking at it now, facing, you know, this whole coronavirus, because again, I've you know me already. I've been looking into this thing. I've been going deep into because you know what, I did a 3-part series, with 3 people, 3 entrepreneurs, and 3 creatives. One was with Karen, founder of Jamaica Valley, UK. The other one was with V Roberts, founder of Insight to Marketing. And then the third person was with Wayne Riley, Art, founder of All Nights Comics. And it was essentially just talking about things we can do as creatives to actually, you know, push through the whole COVID-19 stuff. Again, I design logos and brands. So some of the clientele has gone up. At first, it was very, very quiet because a lot of people didn't know what to do. A lot of people were thinking, you know, like, is there any point? You know, I have to close down my shop because of the panic and fear. So I said, you know what? Let me get the conversation running with some of these creatives quickly so that people can obviously see that there's ways you can adapt. And then now people are realizing, especially a lot of the old hats, you know, oh, I've got to be online now. That's it. Literally, I've got to be online. So those diasporan people in Ghana now, I haven't really connected with a lot of them. I know there was some of them in the YGP group. But what I'm starting to see is a big, massive change in Africa. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of farmers, I should say, in agriculture who are now doubling their workload because, again, their borders are being closed. So they can't essentially get a lot of supplies and help they were getting from maybe the Chinese or maybe whatever, which they didn't really need anyway, in my personal opinion. And what's happening now is they're finding that, for real, during times of struggle, I can actually create things and build things for my own benefit without actually having to rely on people or aid. You know, I've always said to people, you know, we don't need aid. Africa doesn't need aid. It's, you know, the world needs Africa. So a lot of people are now starting to wake up to that. And when I was looking at that, I thought, okay, cool. Let me just look at how the continent's doing geographically with deaths and with everything. And I was just online the other day checking it out. And throughout, say, probably most of April, I was just shocked to see that, like, the whole entire continent, even now, if you look at the stats now, you've got, what, 3,000 deaths on the whole entire continent. This is a continent that has 54 different countries, yeah? You got 3,000 deaths, and you only got 977,000 cases, so just under 100,000 cases. And people were obviously, you know, when I was talking about this earlier in some of my earlier podcasts, people were like, that's because Africa hasn't got the facilities to test people. You don't know if they're doing the right numbers. I'm just like, like, the way people are quick to just downplay Africa is like this poor country, this poor continent that needs help from everyone no, what it is you're starting to realize that the countries you expected, like Britain and the US, to actually handle these things are doing the worst. Again, because of their one common denominator, and that's the economy. And looking at Africa, I've seen from COVID-19 that these guys are accustomed to stress. They're accustomed to these viruses. They've been dealing with all these viral infections for years. I'm talking like, from Ebola in the 70s, coming up to Ebola again in the early 2000s. AIDS, you got malaria, you've got E. coli. And I feel when they've got to this point now in time, it's like, okay, cool, there's an outbreak or there's a virus. The world has never really cared about us anyway. We need to be self-sufficient. You know what I'm saying? And it's quite surprising to see countries like Ghana, who've only had 31 deaths since the entire pandemic. But again, from February, they were doing checks at the airport, checking people's fever, quarantining people that they were suspected to be ill or had coronavirus and whatnot. And now they're back open and running as normal. You know, so I feel like, what's your views on just, you know, Africa in general? Because obviously that's my take on what I've seen. But for someone that's connected with diasporans there, how is it affecting them in business, or how is it even affecting people there in general?
Yeah, so so in Ghana specifically, or in Africa in general?
Well, if you know, Africa in general, or even probably Ghana specifically, because obviously that's what we're dealing with at the moment right now. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know too much about Africa in general, but obviously it's definitely affecting. It definitely has had some effect, you know, on Ghana. So, what Ghana did really well was they closed the borders very quickly, which I did like about Ghana. But what's actually happening in Ghana is some people are not dealing with very well, and some people are. I mean, for example, I just saw that on CNN that there's one business who's still paying employees even though they're not making money. Like, you know, they're still paying their employees because they believe in. Yeah, it's a I think it's a organic. I think it's a body care or skin care kind of brand. Yeah, kind of like a boutique kind of brand. They're still paying their employees, you know, despite the COVID situation, because at the end of the day, for them, it's about families being taken care of. They're thinking about they've got families to feed, and there's no other else place that they can turn to, you know. Essential businesses are doing fine. So, for example, you know, I mean, they haven't really been affected too much. You know, I guess maybe the ones in the street were, but the ones like maybe food stores, bakeries. Like, for example, my mum runs a bakery. She's got like a, you know, whatever. She does some other stuff. She's got some shops as well. That's been running fine. You know, so those essential kind of businesses, they've not been hit too much. But what I'll say is people like law firms, for example, the service industry, they've been affected a little bit because they can't really do a lot of face-to-face meetings. For example, my dad's got a law firm. He can't really have, he said he doesn't really have a lot of clients coming through because of COVID, because, you know, they're a bit reluctant to the face-to-face meeting thing. You have other services business, for example. I was on a call to ExpressPay today because I'm working on a project with them, and you know, they wouldn't let me do a face-to-face meeting in Ghana. Like, they wanted us to, me and my business partner, they wouldn't let us do a face-to-face meeting because, you know, they still have reservations behind COVID. So, and I'll also let's look at the hospitality industry, the rental industry is slowed down a lot. There's not many people, you know, renting out short-term lets, so, you know, hotels, Airbnbs. That's taken a hit as well because the border's been absolutely closed. So you don't really get that flow of tourism coming in and out of the country. So you can see like different businesses have been affected across the board. But because there's a partial lockdown now, I guess it's picked up a bit. But the public gatherings, they've still been kind of closed off, like the pubs, the clubs, the restaurants. You know, those ones have been closed off. So even though people are free to go to work or whatever, you know, there are still public gatherings that can't take place anymore because of this whole coronavirus thing. So I mean, it's quite interesting, man. Agriculture. I don't know too much about what's going on with agriculture right now. But again, I like what the president, you know, Akufo-Addo said the other day. Just like what you said, we don't want to accept any foreign aid. We want to do it ourselves. I mean, you even have I don't know if you heard of it or you saw it. You even have Ghana's first electric car coming soon, which sounds exciting. Locally built. I think it's called Kantaka or something. Kantaka car.
Oh, Kantaka. So they're finally going to invest in them then, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I think so even though some industries have been affected a lot, some not so much, and some haven't been affected at all. That's the way I see it. Let's take journalism, etc. You know, a lot of people are working from home because I've got cousins that have been working from home. But across the board, everyone's been affected one way or another, but there's been some positives. So you know, Ghana is now looking at ways to kind of reinvest back into themselves, you know, to be self-sufficient, just as you said, because of what's happened, you know, because they don't want to rely on foreign aid. I mean, you have to now, you know, learn or find a way to adapt because you close your borders. You can't import goods, right? Or even imported goods are now taking maybe months to come rather than weeks. You know, even if you take Europe, for example, you know, I think if Europe is bad, just imagine how much worse it would be for Africa to receive goods. I mean, I got off the phone with my friend the other day, and he said his brother in Budapest ordered a laptop. Is not coming till August. Yeah, what? It's not coming till August. It's not coming till August. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's not coming till August.
So essentially now it's gonna force the continent to trade within themselves more efficiently because one thing I have learned about Ghana, especially, there's nobody's gonna sit down and wait for something that they normally used to be getting in 2-3 days time or directly. No one's gonna be waiting for, let's say for example, tomatoes to come from Spain or tomato. They may not even trust it because again, Spain's had one of the highest, affected death rates in the entire world. So, but it's
Yeah.
just really weird to see that what they've done is it come like they focus more on the health of the people, on the actual people itself,
Yeah.
left the economy to it where it was,
Yeah.
got the death, got the R rate, the infection rate down, worked with you know, health doctors, scientists, biologists over there as well to actually find ways where people can treat themselves because the recovery rate is quite good over there. I've realized that I think at the beginning there was like 16 people in that had COVID-19. This is right in the beginning of March, and
Yeah.
10 of them recovered, and only I think the
Yeah.
rest of them were in critical situations. I don't know if they had passed away or whatnot, but it was only
Yeah.
at that time it was only one death. So I've seen the recovery rate is quite quick over there, and that
Mm.
could be down to a number of things. But it was very good to see that over in Ghana, they dealt with the infection first and then dealt with the economy later. Whereas here, they dealt with the economy first and now the infection. I mean, the UK is like essentially 55,000 deaths and probably even more. We're now starting to just check people that are flying into Heathrow and in places there. We're
Yeah.
now starting to just check and quarantine them and check their temperature and whatnot. Whereas prior to that, people were flying back and forth,
Yeah.
and even just certain things I've seen, with the whole the media, certain lies they've been portraying because there's this whole myth about us being prone, like BAME people, black people, Asian and ethnic minorities being prone to getting COVID-19 more than whites. And I kind of said to myself, when I saw that, I was thinking, if that is the case, if the the virus is supposed to be racist, or if it's supposed to be, you know, directly affecting us, then Africa will be struggling the most. But really and
True.
truly,
Yeah.
you see where I'm coming from. But really and
Yeah.
truly, it's not.
Yeah.
And I feel the media is very, very, very strategic on practicing fear. Like, I think
Mm.
fear is the biggest virus of all because
Yep.
trust, like, I've got like
Say
some of
that
my
again. Say that again,
fear,
man.
fear is the biggest virus of all. Trust me, bro. And I've seen a lot of people now that were sitting at home for 3 months who
Hmm.
didn't even want to be in it. Like, I remember one of my friends, he was basically like going to go and check on his mum because obviously his mum's in her 70s and whatnot. And his mum didn't
Yeah.
even want to, like, she was proper, what I'm saying, like proper against like him even coming to the house or even seeing her, even outside. Like, she didn't want to be anywhere near him because she was so
Yeah.
scared of what the media
Hmm.
said. And he just said, all right, cool, we left her to it. Now, when Boris made his announcement 2 weeks ago, she got so upset and so angry that she just went outside and just said, you know what, I'm done. And he was like, yeah, you see, this is the you're
Yeah.
waiting on a guy to tell you when to leave your house. A person that
Yeah.
has never worn a face mask, a person
Yeah.
that has never ever, been made himself accountable for anything he has said. He's just basically said, "Oh, we're following the science." But I always encourage people to do your own research. So when they're saying it's affecting BAMEs or if it's affecting more black ethnic minorities, all right, cool. If you're talking about living conditions, fair enough. Yes, we may be we may be more prone to catching the infection, but dying from it, is there's a bit people need to read into certain things, and I feel like just follow the research of doctors,
Mm.
try and come out of the mainstream media news because again, like I said, not once have they reported a recovery rate. Not once. There's 2 million people in the entire world right now that have recovered from COVID. 2 million. You know
There's
what I'm saying?
loads. Probably loads
Yeah,
more than that.
probably
Probably loads.
even more than that. So
Yeah.
it was really just really fascinating to see that Ghana. I was really happy, to see that Africa's actually turned around now, and I'm seeing videos of the Madagascan president saying he's found a cure for coronavirus. I know Ghana, Nigeria, and other people have shared their interest in that, and I think they've obviously gone to get supplies of that and or shipments. Also, it was very interesting to see what he had to say about the World Health Organization. Apparently, it was crazy. Like they offered him 20 mil bribe to basically contaminate the cure that he had, and then say, the cure doesn't work. So then now he's obviously gone on mainstream media and said, no, you guys tried to bribe me. I'm letting the whole world know now. And now they discredit him. Yeah, that's what he's basically done. He said they basically offered him 20 mil for a bribe to actually contaminate his cure. So
of course.
Now you're starting to see, a lot of African leaders realize that with this whole coronavirus impact, I mean, everyone's starting to see it. Everyone throughout the whole entire world, even us over here, you really got to start being self-sufficient. Certain things are not important now. I'm actually quite happy the clubs and that have all closed. I'm actually quite happy that the restaurant, not for my sake, but for other people's sake that were consistently indulged in these sort of things, and it was really, really damaging to their health. Now they're at home and they're sitting back and they're realizing, you know what, do I have to work a 9 to 5? Can I stay at home and work? Can I actually sit down there and say, right, you know what, I've lost my job. I'm being furloughed, or I'm waiting for universal credit. Is it that deep? Is it a thing where I need to actually think about positioning myself better in life than actually worrying about my job?
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm coming from? So I don't know. Would you, with coronavirus and COVID, and obviously the way the West has done it versus Africa, how do you feel these myths, these so-called myths, are actually, what's your take on that?
I don't like what the media is doing. Of course, the media is only going to give you lies. It's television telling lies to your vision, as you always hear, isn't it? The media. Television. Yeah. So the media, obviously the media is being pulled by bigger strings at work. Well, I mean, we all know this, right? Because obviously we know that. Obviously, a lot of people may know or may not know that. Obviously the virus is obviously man-made, and this is what I believe anyway. I believe the virus is man-made, and the virus is only out there to kind of it's part of a bigger agenda. The virus basically is only part of a bigger agenda, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to put fear in us, just like you said, and keep us in lockdown for how many months, just so that while we're in lockdown, they can start planning things for when we come out of lockdown. They're installing 5G and all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of myths out there. Some things might be true, some things may not be true. The coronavirus 5G link, I don't know. Bill Gates being behind WHO, I don't know. You know what I mean? I mean, who knows, man? There's a lot of myths out there, but what I know is that this is a bigger agenda that we're all part of. And I know that this is not the end. People think that we're coming back to normal, but I'm telling you, I've heard that there's something worse coming than coronavirus, so everyone's got to get ready for it. This is just so that we can, it's just so that they can do whatever it is that they're planning. So once we come out of this, they can execute that plan. And obviously the vaccines, you've heard about the vaccines, what they're trying to do with the vaccines. For me, there's so many myths out there. There's so many rumors. There's so many things that they're saying in the media. I don't know what's what. All I know is I'm going to be doing my thing. I'm going to be putting my faith in God. I'm going to be banging out projects. I'm going to be building my streams of income, building my building my kind of empire, maximizing the time while they're doing all of this stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, what can I really say? Yeah.
No, it's true, and I feel like that's the mentality everyone needs to kind of have right now. Do your research first, but don't be afraid of what's really happening, because what you tend to find is when you're in a state of fear, even scientifically, your body goes into a mode of stress, and there's a chemical called cortisol that gets released. And cortisol is an agent that starts to shut down your organs naturally over time. So,
Mad.
like it could just be, for example, like when you get that when you get people that have anxiety attacks, people that get scared, or people that get afraid of
Yeah.
certain things, this actual chemical itself, it rises up, and it's mad because when you see the actual there was a video on it again. I was watching the other day. When you actually see the actual diagram, the 3D diagram, the whole internal body where it was all lit up with all this colors and heat and energy, all starts to turn grey. And
Mad. Mad.
that essentially is causing. Yeah, I've had people I've spoken to, and they've literally said, their mum was like, "Oh, let me just go inside for a checkup just to see, because I'm afraid that my blood pressure might rise and whatnot." And she ain't come out. She ain't come out, and it's sad. But the positive note on this whole entire thing really is health. Your health, your immune system, not only just your body, but your mentality, your spirituality. This is the best time to actually really connect with your family, your friends. From the digital side, if you want to practice social distancing from a digital side, and for those that are not afraid, go and see them. Go and see your loved ones. It may be the last time. One's there. And for us creators and entrepreneurs, and even those that want to start, those that want to build, their businesses, or those that have dreams and aspires right now, this is the perfect time because, again, like I said, the stocks are down on a lot of these companies. I've had some friends that have recently invested in EasyJet. They're saying their stocks are at the lowest right now. Amazon as well. A lot of these big companies, a lot of airlines as well. The aviation industry has been hit quite hard, and we don't know how they're going to bail themselves out. But essentially, a lot of these businesses will start to pick up. And if you're not really thinking ahead, or not thinking, oh, you know what, for real, I've got this last, I don't know, let's just say last 3 or 4 grand in my account, and it's just sitting there. I can panic buy and spend it on toilet roll, or I can invest it in myself. Do you see where I'm coming from? I can invest it in myself, my idea, or my business. If you're still not sure, there's still stocks and stuff that you can invest in as well. I would tell people to just watch certain markets. And if you're not someone that wants to invest in trade, and you just literally want to just carry on with life, work on your health. Just work on your health. That gym time that you've never had, now you've got it. That morning time you've never had because you've always been rushing to work. Now you've got it. Even if it's just a walk. Just bro. But it's mad, man. It's mad. But
I find it funny how people, I really find it funny how people who work the 9-to-5 jobs, whatever, they now want to go back into the office because some of them are going insane that they're just in the house all day. You know those people that they don't like just being in the house all day. They want to kind of get out there and mix with the crowd. So there's some people who actually rather want to go back in the office. But I think there was a survey done about who wants to work from home, who wants to go back to the office, or who wants like a mixture of days. And I think what came up on top was a mixture. I think people didn't want to necessarily be in the office all the time. They didn't necessarily want to be at home all the time, but they wanted like they wanted something in between. They wanted like a halfway house. And you got companies like, I think Twitter. Twitter's gone unlimited. You can work from home. Yeah, for Twitter, the tech companies.
For a year, innit?
I think for life, actually, you can work from home. I think for life, you can work from home for life as much as you want to. And I think what's been interesting is some of these tech companies like LinkedIn, they've been given unlimited holidays, but that's like a whole other kind of talking point anyway. But going back to like, because you talked about like the hospitals and stuff, like how when someone goes into the hospital and they want to go in for a checkup for coronavirus and never come out. One of those rumors that are going around about the virus.
We've got like literally 15 seconds, so we have to probably go live again.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. But,
okay, so I'm gonna go out and come back in. Yeah,
I'll go out and come back in. Yeah, because it's
all right.
I'm not now. 1 sec.
Right.
Okay, cool. Get everyone back in again. Good. Right. For those of you who just missed the live video with Adrian Daniels, we're gonna go do a part 2 right now. I've posted the first live video on IGTV, so you should be able to see it. We're just basically talking about coronavirus, effects on the actual African continent itself, how diasporans and creators overseas and over here are innovating during that time as well, and also about Adrian's podcast called The Sound of Accra. So I'm going to add Adrian in now to continue on the conversation. One sec. Hold on.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll come back in again.
That's okay. That's okay, man.
But yeah, so yeah, you were talking about the coronavirus the hospital. I think you were saying something I said earlier.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that actually, where you were talking about how someone wanted to have a coronavirus checkup, and then they ended up maybe not coming back out of the hospital. There's something very fishy going on, because obviously there's one other rumor going on where people are dying for one cause, but they're writing it off as coronavirus. You know, it just shows how there's something really a big agenda going on, honestly, because, you know, why would you do that? Because you want to prove that coronavirus is really a big deal, so that, you know, you can then get the vaccine out, you know, which rumor has it's supposed to control us, it's supposed to, you know, kill us or whatever. So, you know, that's one thing that's really, really fishy, you know, because I think everyone that's pretty much being died off as coronavirus is not, you know, I mean, the rumor has it, you know what I mean? That,
you see what it is with, sorry.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Just to piggyback off that, you see what it is, yeah? Basically, with just some of the research I've been looking into and just people I've been speaking to, like nurses and that, what I'm starting to find is that a lot of hospitals are not overrun, and what you're finding out is really it's just the wards, specific wards that actually have busy moments. But in fact, a lot of these actual hospitals are empty. There was even a video on YouTube. I couldn't even find the guy. You know, when you see something on YouTube, it just gets taken down. One guy ran into all these different hospitals in London, and he started recording, showing all the empty hospitals. So apparently he got arrested. I don't know what's happened to him now. I don't know what's going on. But from what I was chatting to a GP the other day, and he was saying to me, what he's finding is that his wife's a nurse, and obviously, you know, she's on maternity, so she's at home doing a lot of paperwork. And what she's finding out is patients that she knows that had, you know, critical illnesses like lung cancer or diabetes type 1 or stomach cancer, for example, basically when they're going in to hospital, they're being neglected.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You know, they're being neglected. You had Piers Morgan the other day on Good Morning Britain TV, and he was arguing with this guy, I can't remember, this MP called Hillary something, and he was basically saying the reports he's getting in is that doctors are not visiting care homes. So all of these care home deaths that have come out, like all of a sudden, that have basically said, oh, you know, the care homes, the old people that have died in care homes or care homes and deaths and whatnot, no one had been seeing them from prior March, from all March, like early March, coming end of February. No one had been going to see them. No one had been going to check up on them. So
that's exactly it. And they're writing off as coronavirus. It's ridiculous.
This is the thing. But what you're also finding now, there's a money show behind it, because if apparently, according to one doctor I was speaking to, he said that they have been told that, you know, in their little grapevine, because again, people need to realize that doctors and nurses, police officers, they're all normal human beings. Although they have their jobs and we see them in their certain, you know, statures of levels and whatnot, they're normal human beings. They gossip, they chat, they have the same kind of stuff we have. They probably got group chats that are worse than ours. Now, in their group chats, one doctor was telling me that, there's a rumor going around that senior doctors are being told to put COVID-19 on death certificates because they get
Yes.
£4,000 per
Stupid, man.
patient. Yeah, in some private hospitals, you even get 14 grand from, you know, the whole coronavirus fund or whatever they've got going in the government. So what you may find is that the agenda is big, but because of greed and because of the way, remember, the NHS was suffering last year financially and the year before that. You know, the whole Conservative Party was trying to get rid of the NHS, privatize it, and turn it into something else. Now they're clapping for them every Thursday, ironically. But anyway, but what I'm starting to find out is, yeah, there is a lot of funniness going on with the hospitals. People are not really like some of the like I was saying, that GP's wife. She was saying that, no, I know this patient. Let's say for example his name was Danny, you know, or Larry or whatever. I know he had lung cancer. He was in intensive care, but they signed him off as COVID-19. So what people need to be careful of is you need to really be aware of what you're doing, because remember, you couldn't visit your family or family member or friend that was in hospital. There was no visitors allowed at one point. So you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. I mean, if they've got a phone and it's cool, but again, if they're in an intensive state and they can't really speak on the phone, it's even worse. But I think the solution to that is check yourself before you go and get checked by a doctor or nurse or anyone. Because if you've cut your arm open, you've got blood spewing everywhere. Okay, fair enough, innit? I get it. You got to go to hospital. But if it's a small minor cough, or again, if it's just a whole panic or fear of, I need to, you know, let me just go and get myself checked out. You just need to literally look at yourself first and diagnose yourself first in terms of, you know, what you've taken into yourself. If you've been staying indoors, you know, all the time, and you've only gone outside for shopping, and you've been wearing a mask, research what masks are actually safe. Research which masks actually, you know, are there to help. Because a lot of masks that people are wearing, especially the blue one, that's only used for doctors when doing surgery, so that they actually don't contaminate the patient. You know what I'm saying? Like, or it's not.
It doesn't really do anything.
Doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything. Other than the mask doesn't do anything. I mean, it's just a nice. I think it's just a nice way to make money. Honestly.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do that as well. Yeah, you know, it doesn't do anything, and a lot of people need to realize that you're blocking your immune system from breathing. Hence, you breathing in and breathing out. So you're breathing in your dirty oxygen. Now, if you've been wearing your mask consistently for 4 months, when you do take it off, when these guys say it's okay to go outside, you're going to get sick.
It's reverse psychology. They're doing this just so to make things worse for you. Yeah, they're making these rules up so that they can make things worse for you.
Just
terrible. It's terrible, man. Honestly, really, and one thing I'm thankful to God for is that unfortunately I lost my grandmother last year, but you know, I really wanted her to stick around for a bit longer. But imagine if she passed just before like Christmas, right? Imagine if she was still around in the world after, you know, after Christmas, you know, 2020 coronavirus madness. I want to be able to see her, man. You know what I mean? I was super close. I was super close with her. I was living literally 5-minute drive. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. 5-minute drive from her. I'll not be able to see her. And literally, like, one conversation I had with my family all the time is that if grandmother was around, because my family's super tight with my grandmother, we all were. If grandmother was around, how would we be able to see her? Wouldn't. Or even if I did, maybe I put myself at risk, or maybe because she watched the news all the time, and that maybe would have made her even more anxious, you know, because you know, just watching negative news all the time can put a lot of negativity into your mind, and it can influence you for the worse. So one thing I must say is that I'm really, really glad that she didn't have to live through all of this, honestly, because there's a lot of mixed fake news going out through the media waves.
No, it's true. It's true. I think the best thing to do is work on, you know, solutions into how to actually be strengthened with this whole entire virus situation. I feel like people need to do their research a lot more. I would say, you know, with the actual, it's funny you're saying that about the whole, you know, your grandma and whatnot, because I want to have a podcast on dealing with death, on how, because I feel that's a conversation a lot of people run from, you know, how to actually take in death. You know, when I'm researching ancient African history, death was a complete different thing to how we see death now. You know, they endured death. They actually looked at death as a second life. But now you hear the phrase, "Oh, you only live once." Now you hear the phrase, "Oh, you know, you got to get everything in this life. You don't know about the next life," all that kind of crap. And I feel like if people had much more of a better understanding of death, even from childhood, people will be less fearless.
Yeah.
And we'll be more strong-minded because
100.
You see where I'm coming from? Because again, with death, especially death in a family where you've got like a grandmother or a grandfather that's strong, you know, you tend to lose a lot of. Sometimes families break up. Sometimes families, the strongholds loosen because one person was pivoting it, you know, in one direction, or one person had it in a sense where, you know, oh, because grandmother, we all respect grandmother, we're all going to listen to what grandmother says. Now that grandmother's died, it's like, oh, she's died. What am I going to do? How am I going to live? Or how am I? Do you see where I'm coming from? So I've lost people that's close to me before. And as I've got older, I've learned that, like, the other day I lost one of my friends from my old workplace. He died in his sleep.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm cool. I'm good. The first thing I said when I heard the news and they said he died in his sleep, I said, you know what? I'm happy he died in his sleep than died in a hospital where someone was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
That is scary, you know. That is dying in his sleep. I've heard of a few people. I know a few people personally have died in their sleep, and that's crazy, man. Can you imagine just dying in your sleep?
Bro, it's funny you're saying that, but that's how a lot of ancient, you know, old traditions were. Like literally, if you was an old person in the village, you know, you would naturally, if you knew it was your time, because then we're a bit more inclined with the spiritual world. So if you knew it was your time, you would literally go into a space. It could be maybe a cabin or a place in the mountains, and you'll go to sleep knowing that you're not going to wake up. And then people would actually escort you there. Probably a few days later, people go there and check on you. If they find out that you're alive, you're still alive, they'll tell you, hey, you're still alive, it didn't work. Or they'll tell you, you know, rest in peace, and they'll bury you and whatnot.
Rest in peace. You know,
man. So I think
the real definition of rest in peace, man. Can you imagine?
I'm telling you, bro. I want to do it. I think I want to get some people together. I want to see if I can get some psychologists as well that deal with the mental trauma of death and effects on how we can actually deal with death better, because that's a big thing. And even for myself, you know, you would always mourn someone that's gone, but if you're familiar with where you believe they're going to, or if you're familiar with your actual life itself, again, you could be scared of death so much that you would actually live a healthier life. You know, and
I think there needs to be a healthy balance. I mean, I think there needs to be a balance, really, of you know, of not being. There needs to be a balance, a healthy balance of being scared of death and not being scared of death. Not scared of death to the point where you can still live your life, and being scared of death to the point where, okay, I need to probably live my life in a certain way, you know. So I think there needs to be there's a healthy balance. Death, I think knowing death is coming is good, but you need to have. I think it just needs to be a balance. Yeah,
definitely. I agree still, man. But yeah, man. But listen, bro, I'm gonna wrap up in a sec. It's been a very good conversation. 2 live videos. You know, we're gonna have to get ourselves on a Zoom call probably soon, and then yeah, man, because I know with this coronavirus, it ain't going away. But also the creatives and the entrepreneurs are still innovating. Those in the diaspora are still creating. They're still pushing. So there's going to be a lot more to talk about. And as you've seen already with Joe Rogan's 100 million, when I see that now, I'm just like, yeah, you know what?
It's motivation, isn't it?
It's motivation, bro. It's motivation. Man. You know, Spotify's, you know, paid you £100 million, not only to, dollars, not only to only have your podcast on Spotify, but to move your entire content from YouTube.
It's crazy, yeah.
That's crazy. And, you know, I think he's the highest paid podcaster in the world at the moment, I would assume. Or is it only on YouTube?
No, I think everything. He's the top podcaster in the world, man. Joe Rogan. top podcast. He has a top podcast. And being a top podcaster, I think he makes the most from it as well because of all these deals he gets. Everything. I think he does some commentary for UFC sometimes as well.
Yeah. UFC. He's a stand-up comedian as well. I've seen him do a few. Yeah, he's built. I've seen him build. He's built himself up quite a lot, and I think I connected more of him when I saw the Joe Rogan podcast because he was covering subjects I liked, like the aliens and these CIA guys that have now turned whistleblower. He was really getting into a lot of that, and I feel like he's very. I do feel he does play defense a lot in terms of how he deals with certain comments and certain things, like for example with the whole like Bill Gates and vaccine thing. You had both sides. You had someone that was anti-vaccines, and obviously you had someone that was for vaccines. And
really,
but he's very good, and I like the stuff that he does. But it's motivated me a lot more to speak about the topics that I believe are worth for the listeners to actually hear. And just carrying with my podcast, which is the Definition Podcast, solely for the thinkers and those that like to think. For those of you who don't like to think, then this is not for you. But yeah, I want to keep pushing and then keep growing. So I feel like, once again, thank you for coming on this actual episode as well. And yeah, bro, we're definitely going to keep the conversation going with the Sound of Accra as well and the actual Diasporan Connect, because again, I just feel the Diasporans are actually taking over the whole narrative of Africa, especially Ghana as well. And man.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I want to say before I leave this podcast is I think the diasporans, the diasporas who want to relocate to Ghana, etc., they need to understand it's not as easy as they think it is. And they can't just, put both feet in Ghana straight away, that they need to have some kind of support unit. They need to have something running. If they can't, it's not always easy to hit the ground running. They need to be able to kind of have something going on for them before they fully relocate to Ghana, especially living there myself and learning from people's experiences that relocated there. But is there something definitely there for diasporas? Yes, man. There's a lot happening. There's a lot at work. There's a lot people can do. Yeah, man, diasporas can definitely go out there and make something out of it. And I think I'm actually going to rename Diaspora Connect to the Sound of Accra Live. I'm bringing guests, bringing live people, to come and speak at the event rather than just, just trying to be pure networking, because I think it will attract a bit more of an audience. But yeah, thank you, Jess.
Yeah, no worries, bro. Listen, man, thank you once again for coming on. I really appreciate it. Karen saying thank you. Sorry, Karen, that was my my T9 dictionary. You literally just posted the email address on there. But yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate everything. You guys, all the comments and everything as well. And yeah, bro, we'll keep up with these conversations. And again, the Diasporan Takeover. We'll do a part 2. And then, man, you take care. Hope all is well. And yeah, bro, we'll catch up.
Thank you, my bro. God bless.
All right, no worries, man. Take care, bro. All right, safe.
Bye.
Wow. Yep. Very, 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 very good conversation with Adrian. We spoke a lot about diasporans, and as you guys already probably heard as well, we debunked a lot of myths that were going on during this whole COVID-19 epidemic, or pandemic, I should say. And we covered a lot of the actual fear tactics that people have used in the media and whatnot to actually stop people from leaving their houses, going outside and doing certain things. Well, we're here to let you guys know that we shouldn't play into the fear, and that you should do your own research and learn the facts. Once again, if you want to watch the full visuals to this actual IG live, you can go on the New Motive YouTube at New Motive WOC, or you can go on the Instagram at New Motive WOC on our IGTV. Like, share, subscribe, and let me know your feedback. Thanks.